Okay, I just want to make this very clear. This is my first impressions of the movie. I just got out of seeing it and I've only seen it the one time. So, as of right now, I think that Spider-Man Far From Home is just, it's incredibly frustrating. Spider-Man Far From Home is directed by John Watts, the same director who did Spider-Man Homecoming, and stars Tom Holland as Peter Parker, Zendaya as MJ, Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and many others. And I think as a film, it's okay. I think the pacing for this film is a little rushed, especially when it comes to the first act, because it's literally just jumping from scene to scene of getting Peter onto this school trip. And a lot of scenes in the first act are played for comedy, and for some weird reason, I mean, this movie's directed by the same guy who directed Homecoming, and I found Homecoming to be very charming and funny. This film, I felt a lot of the jokes fell really flat, especially since most of them seem like they were improv. And the humor for me just becomes a problem because even the characters I've used to find very funny, like Ned, weren't really funny in this film. I mean, I love Ned. I think Jacob Batalon is great. But in this film, he wasn't nearly as funny as he was in Homecoming or Infinity War. Like, in Infinity War, he had me busting out laughing. But in this movie, I was just like, that's amusing. Now, you can tell there's a lot of things cut from this movie. If you watch the trailers and then you watch the movie, there's just so many things that are missing. And you can tell that a lot of it was from the beginning of the film because the movie just starts with this, like, tribute to the Avengers. And it's done in a similar fashion to the high school news show that they do. And there's a deleted scene in the Homecoming disc that is basically that, but for longer. And that's not really that funny. And that's how I felt about that Avengers tribute. It wasn't really that funny. But then after that, the movie literally just jumps to Peter going, hey Ned, okay, I'm in love with MJ, I have this really romantic plan done for this trip, and it's gonna work, I'm gonna like tell you the whole thing. And I just sat there going, wait, since when did you like MJ? In a lot of ways, this film doesn't feel like a sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, it just feels like its own separate thing. The film doesn't even bother to address the way May feels about Peter being Spider-Man, something that I thought that they would do to open the film, but they don't. Like, I thought we were going to get a scene similar to Spider-Man 2, where Peter and Aunt May are talking about Uncle Ben's death and all that stuff, but no, literally, she's just there at the homeless shelter, she hugs him, saying, oh, that was very good, she throws a banana at him for some weird reason, and then she's just in love with Happy Hogan for the rest of the film. What was the point of even setting that up if there was no actual payoff to it? And yeah, like I said earlier, Peter magically has feelings for MJ, which was never established in Homecoming because he was too preoccupied with being with Liz and also being Spider-Man, and he didn't really care about high school. So that sudden urge of affection for MJ just comes out of nowhere. And I know time has passed since the ending of Homecoming to the end of Endgame, but I really don't understand what's happening. Like, the film doesn't bother establishing any character dynamics. All of a sudden it just goes, Peter's in love with MJ, that's it, story, there we go. And I was just like, well no, this doesn't work. If I'm gonna watch Homecoming and then watch Far From Home straight afterwards, there is no connective tissue. Like, even Endgame and Infinity War, they don't fill in the gaps. There's no connective tissue between these movies. They don't feel like sequels. At least with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, despite its tonal inconsistencies, it carried over plot elements from the first Amazing Spider-Man film. This film rarely does that. And if they do address things, they play it off as a joke. Especially when it comes to the repercussions of the snap. When they talk about the repercussions of the snap, they play it for laughs, and I'm honestly just disappointed. The film doesn't bother telling us about what's happened to the Avengers now that Iron Man and Captain America are gone. It's literally just people are throwing up Iron Man memorials, and that's really it. The film literally spends 2 seconds going, oh yeah, kids that were once 5 years younger than Peter are now the same age as him. And I'm just like, what? It honestly just felt like such a wasted opportunity. And the Peter-Nick Fury dynamic was super disappointing because in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, that's one of my favorite things. Like, Nick Fury, like, prepping him up to be the next great superhero, and Nick Fury going, alright kid, once you turn 18, you're mine, you're the States now, you're gonna become an Ultimate. And the way it's played in the comics, it's amazing. In this film, they take that very basic element, but Fury doesn't actually, you know, mentor him. All Fury does is go, hey Peter, I need you, why are you dodging my calls? He hijacks his summer vacation, he forces him to team up with Mysterio, they go to Prague, they fight Molten Man, and then at the end Fury's just like, look, I'm going to Berlin, you either show up, or like you just go away and go on your trip. And I was just like, okay, why is Peter affected by this? I get that Peter's, you know, trying to be the next Iron Man, but honestly, this has nothing to do with him. So yeah, that whole plot thread and character dynamic with Peter and Nick Fury was sort of wasted. And now in Homecoming, there was obviously signs that Peter was going to be the next Iron Man Jr., But this film takes it to a whole nother level. Like, honestly, how hard is it for Spider-Man to just be Spider-Man? Sure, yeah, give him a tech suit, that's fine. But literally having him, work on a new suit, listening to AC/DC with, like, Happy Hogan by his side, no, I don't need that. Although I will say that is one of the better jokes in the film when Happy turns on Back in Black and then Peter's just like, oh, I love Led Zeppelin. That was really funny. But the whole MacGuffin of Tony Stark giving Peter the Edith glasses, which essentially gives Peter Parker the power of like millions of drones in the Stark satellites, I'm like, what? Why is Tony Stark trusting him with this? This doesn't make any sense. Especially since Peter uses it so irresponsibly, and he's kind of dumb when he uses it. He's literally just like, hey, I want you to eliminate one of my high school friends because he likes MJ. And then the drone just releases missiles and is about to blow him up. That whole sequence was just so weird. I'm like, why is Peter being so thick at this moment? And honestly, yeah, the Edith glasses was just a MacGuffin to tie into Mysterio's whole big plan. Like, honestly, it was just disappointing. But I think aside from story elements, there are things about this film I enjoy. The performances, for the most part, are really great. Tom Holland, excellent as always. He is genuinely just really good all the time. I really liked the way the film played Peter's struggle of just wanting to enjoy his summer vacation, but he's forced to do superhero things. That felt kind of Spider-Man-y, but then obviously the way the film plays it, it doesn't necessarily feel like a Spider-Man film. This film sort of feels like a high school film, like a little summer vacation film with like Spider-Man in it. But even then, Spider-Man's rarely in it. I mean, Peter's obviously doing Spider-Man things, but the actual Spider-Man costume isn't in the film that much. But yes, Tom Holland is great. I mean, one of my favorite moments, and I think probably the best moment in the film character-wise, was when Happy was stitching up Peter in the plane, and like Peter's like writhing in pain, and Happy's just like, calm down. And then Peter just snaps at him. That was such a really good moment. Like, seeing Peter break down like that was just a really good moment in the film. Zendaya as MJ, I don't know why we just magically start calling her MJ. I mean, I get the whole line from Homecoming saying my friends call me MJ, but other than that, why have they all started calling her that instead of Michelle? But yes, Zendaya as MJ was very good. I found her to be a lot more likable than she was in Homecoming, and I really liked the kiss they had on Tower Bridge because that, again, was just very awkward, but it felt really authentic. I like how she quickly kisses him in the spur of the moment, and Peter's taken aback, just like, wait, what? And then they start easing into it, and they start kissing and all that stuff, and it was awkward, but it was also very sweet, and I really enjoyed that moment. Now, although I find this film to be very hit and miss, the one thing that they hit home, and they hit home hard, was Mysterio. Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was just, perfection. This movie did Mysterio so well, like, it's insane. He's just done so perfectly. Now, I obviously saw the twist that Mysterio was a villain from the very beginning since, I've read the comic books. I know that's Mysterio's character. He's a con man. He just wants to look good so other people admire him. And I knew that was coming, and when they revealed it, I was just like, yes, they're doing it. Great. And that whole reveal scene was cool, although I found the editing to be very jarring. The revelation that Mysterio created the bath technology that we saw in Captain America Civil War was a very weird retcon, because the way the film edits that moment is just very weird. Like, they retcon and they like digitally add him back into Captain America Civil War. They bring back the guy that Obadiah Stane yells at in Iron Man 1 and he's helping him, and I was just like, whoa. So Mysterio's whole entire crew is just ex-Stark employees. So we're doing the same thing as Homecoming again. Someone that is cheated by Stark who then become Spider-Man's villain. That's okay. But honestly, Jake Gyllenhaal was just so good in this movie. He was really channeling his character from Nightcrawler. Like, the scene where he's revealing the whole big master plan to his employees, it was just so Nightcrawler-like. Like, when he said, oh, we need to get maximum coverage of every point, I was like, oh wow, he really is just playing his character from Nightcrawler. That's so cool. And honestly, this movie doubles down on taking full advantage of using Mysterio as a character. The illusion scenes are phenomenal. They are easily the best parts of the movie. Just the way Mysterio is pushing Peter through all these weird and trippy dimensions, and then he pushes him in front of a grave, and at that moment I thought, oh my god, they're gonna do it, they're gonna mention Uncle Ben. No, it's just Tony Stark. And I was just like, oh yeah, okay, that works, but I was a little disappointed. I mean, come on, where's my Uncle Ben reference? I know his suitcase has the initials BFP on it, but really, still no mention of Uncle Ben? But regardless of that, those illusion scenes were easily the best part of the film. But Peter using his spider sense, no, not the Peter Tingle, I refuse to call it that because it's stupid, to take out Mysterio's illusions was just awesome and was directly pulled from the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series, which just made me so happy because that animated series is the definitive Spider-Man adaptation, like, hands down, forever and ever, amen. The action in this film was much better than Spider-Man Homecoming. John Watts has certainly improved, but I still would say that the action in this film isn't the best. Like, it still doesn't hold a candle to Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's okay. I enjoyed the fight in Prague with Multiman, that was pretty cool. The fight with Hydra Man was okay. I mean, all the Mysterio stuff was cool, but all Spider-Man does in that scene is just stop a tower from falling, and I'm like, that's a bit meh. But the final fight for me was just a little bit mind-numbing. I mean, Spider-Man blowing up drones was not that exciting for me. But also, the CGI in this film is much better than Homecoming. But the thing that I don't understand is, why does John Watts not like having Spider-Man swing through New York City, or just swing through cities in general? I mean, we do sort of get a final swinging sequence in this film, and it's good, but it doesn't hold a candle to this, or this, or this. Now, I obviously can't end this video without talking about the post-credit scenes. The first post-credit scene sort of made my initial reaction to this movie slightly negative. Or did it? I don't know. This film is really frustrating because when the post-credit scene first starts playing, it, shows Peter and MJ landing, and they have a little cute exchange, and then, like, Peter jumps, and he's in Madison Square Gardens, and we see the news anchor from Amazing Spider-Man 2 appear, saying, oh, we have breaking news about the death of Mysterio. The events of the footage have been revealed by thedailybugle.net. And we see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. He doesn't have any hair, but it's J.K. Simmons. In fact, let me quickly recreate my reaction to that scene in the cinema. It's him! And just seeing J.K. Simmons back was honestly just so exciting for me. I would have liked him to have had his hair, but I guess, alternate universe, you want to switch it up a bit. I get that, but I don't know. But just seeing him there was great. But then the scene continues, and although it's a really kind of cool, twisty ending, I don't know how I feel about it. My initial reaction was, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. So we see that Mysterio, before he died, gave the Daily Bugle footage framing Spider-Man to be the big mastermind villain of the entire film, which wasn't actually the case. And then the news footage continues even further, and Mysterio straight up turns to the camera saying, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and he puts up a picture, and Spider-Man's just like, what the f-? And I don't know how I feel about it, because in all honesty, if this is the case, and they have fully outright revealed Peter Parker's identity to the world as Spider-Man, I'm not a happy camper. I don't like that at all. I mean, unless they have Peter go to Doctor Strange and ask him to make a magical spell that, makes people forget that he's Spider-Man, I honestly am not very excited about what they're going to do in Spider-Man 3. Because if Peter is outed as Spider-Man, I honestly don't know how I'm gonna feel. I probably won't like it at all. Unless in the third film it's about Peter trying to prove that he's not Spider-Man to the world, and so he pulls like a Spectacular Spider-Man where, Venom's trying to prove that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but Peter manages to get away with it. I wouldn't mind that. Or if, they do the 4 Spider-Men, like Hornet, Ricochet, and all those other ones, that'd be cool too, but as of right now, I don't like how the film ended. I mean, maybe I might love it a second time round. I don't know. I'll probably make a video after I rewatch the film again and see if my opinions change. But also, the fact that this was Mysterio's contingency plan, I really hope that Mysterio isn't dead. I hope he comes back for the third one. Because I feel like if Far From Home is the first part of a 2-part story, that'd be pretty cool. But I honestly don't know. And as for the second post-credit scene, we find out that Talos, the Skrull from Captain Marvel, was posing as Nick Fury the whole time. And that Nick Fury is currently in space forming S.W.O.R.D., which is basically the space version of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is cool, I guess. Overall, I found Spider-Man Far From Home to be very hit and miss. I think as a film, it's okay, but I think me being a Spider-Man fan and my reactions to certain scenes have sort of, made me look at this film in a slightly negative light. I mean, maybe that would change with the second and third viewing, I don't know. I am definitely going to see it again though. I 100% need to see that. The film ended, I turned to my friends and I was just like, yeah, I need to see this movie again. I don't know how I feel. And keep in mind, I really do like Spider-Man Homecoming. It has its issues. I'm not a massive fan of the technology aspect that they used in that first film, but I think in terms of telling a story of Peter Parker learning that he doesn't need the technology to be Spider-Man was a really good story arc for that film. I loved the Vulture, I loved Holland in that film. I just didn't really like some of the aesthetics, like the CGI wasn't that great and the action wasn't that great in Homecoming. But aside from that, it was a very fun and enjoyable film. This film is really hit and miss for me. I mean, for the things that I do love in this film, like Tom Holland and Mysterio and Happy Hogan and all that stuff, I do like that. But then this film just feels a bit of a disappointment to me. Oh, and speaking of disappointments, when the Marvel logo came up and it was playing Whitney Houston, I got super bummed out. I thought it was going to be a tradition for these Spider-Man films to play the orchestrated version of the 60s theme, but no, they didn't do that. What? But that being said, I did enjoy the soundtrack for this film. Mysterio's theme, mwah. The Spider-Man theme, mwah. Good soundtrack. As of right now, I am disappointed in this film. I thought it was going to be like an actual sequel to Homecoming and it was going to feel like Homecoming, but I don't feel like this film does feel like Homecoming. I mean, I even remember when the premise for this film was announced, that Spider-Man was going to go on a European vacation. I wasn't a fan of it, but as the trailers came out, I was slowly won over by it. But the end result, I'm not feeling it right now. But yeah, that's how I currently feel about Spider-Man Far From Home. It's an okay film, I guess, but it's also very frustrating for me. But what did you guys think? Leave me a comment down below. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell down there. My social media links are down in the description, so if you give them a look and a follow, that'd be very nice. I have a second channel where I make short films, that's also down in the description. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. Until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.